Hello and welcome back to Kaizen with Luca. Now, I'm going to be the first to admit that I'm not perfect. I missed a day. Um, and yeah, I think that's a one way to start this is that I missed a day. Um, I I couldn't film yesterday. A couple things came up, and sometimes in life that happens. Those couple of things were uh, pretty important, mostly work related things. And I really wanted to film yesterday because, I set up this established thing of, well, this is something that I have to do. Um, and I made the promise of doing it daily, and here I am, already. We've made it to 10 episodes daily, and then what happened? I didn't get the daily post in there, so this is one of those things where it's okay to not be perfect all of the time. And I think it's okay to recognize that, as much as we could be disciplined, as much as we can show up and say we're going to follow through on things, it's okay when something ends up falling through. It's not like it's okay to fall through, and maybe you miss a day, maybe whatever, but the most important thing is how you're able to bounce back from that. Although I missed a day yesterday, I still ended up posting a short, and I stuck to that, and I also sat down here today to talk to you. So we make sure that we get right back on the saddle. No matter what happens, we get right back on it, and we make sure that we continue to show up, not only for us, but not only for yourself. I mean, you should be showing up for yourself, but also we show up for others that might be struggling a little bit too. So I just wanted to point that out, and address, what happened, where I was. Had some important work stuff, some networking things going on, and sometimes you just got to do what you got to do to continue to excel and grow in your career, and that's what I ended up doing. So that's why we missed it, but we're back. We are going to talk about taking joy in what you have, and this is super important. And this is from the Book of Wisdom, Book of Ecclesiastes. This is something that I talked about in the first episode of just being, joyful in what you have and not being sorrowful in what you don't have. I also think if you were to take this from the non-biblical standpoint of like that comparison is the thief of joy, that saying I would say goes hand in hand with this as well. This is probably like derived from that, because they say, if you end up comparing yourself to others, you're just going to end up being sad because they have something that you don't. And this is the exact thing that we're addressing with the book of Ecclesiastes, and what he's saying with this take joy in what you have quote. So super important that we look at the things around us. I have the ability to sit down here every day and talk to you. I have the ability to drive to work every day. I have the ability to go out there and be self-sufficient and make money. Like, I should be happy about that. I shouldn't be upset when I look at people who maybe they make hundreds of thousands of dollars, and like that's great and that's cool. But and we would all probably want to make that much money and have abundance like that. But sometimes it's not always about having that abundance. So what this means in my notes context and not so much my off the brain context is comparison is not just emotionally painful, but it's practically useless. When you are measuring what you have against what someone else has, you are spending energy that could go towards building. The person you are comparing yourself to is not your competition. Your competition is your past self. And by that measure, most of us are winning every single day without noticing. So think about that. Most of us are winning every single day without noticing. So, I mean, that statement alone, I just got to let that one sit. That's a powerful statement. Because waking up, getting some fresh clothes on, taking a shower, there's all these little things that we do every day that, we just take for granted. And getting up and doing those things every day just means that we're winning. We get up and we just get to win the day. So this, I'm trying to think, I try not to compare myself to people a ton. And obviously it's inevitable that we do compare ourselves to people because we live in the society where we are constantly trying to stand out and get ahead. And it's tough when you are doing something like that, whether you're in a job because, generic name, John ends up having a really good performance in quarter one, or maybe somebody you're working with just keeps getting praised for something and you go unnoticed. But also we'd have to recognize that at some point it'll be our time. And where am I trying to go with this? It's, if you're people were asking me, because there were some changes on the team and I've been undergoing a ton of stress and trying to figure out, what does my everyday now look like. I got extremely comfortable with my role and what I was doing, and I finally feel like I hit a groove, and then all of a sudden that gets stripped away, and you no longer have that soft pillow that you were relying on to go and talk to you. You don't have specific people anymore. So I've been navigating a lot of different things, and the thing that I find myself saying is, if you were to ask me this question before all this transition happened, I would have told you that I wasn't ready. And now, I'm speaking of this as my current self, but my past self was so worried. My past self was conjuring up all of these things that could go wrong. And I was so scared, and, people are telling me, and I'm so thankful for the people that were telling me that, I'll be all right, that I got this, and they were empowering me to take ownership and, do my best and, offering their support. And it's just you feel a little silly looking back, and you're just kind of well, was all that kind of blown out of proportion? And, we all have our anxieties. But my past self was just so worried. Oh, did I ever finish this? Oopsies. Let's add a little thing here. There we go. And, you know, I'm comparing myself to others, right? Like, I'm comparing myself to the person that ended up moving on. I was comparing myself to all these different things. And it was just taking away, you know, the ideas that I was having. And, you know, it was eating at my mind. And I don't know if it was actually helping me out at all. And I realized that, you know, I shouldn't be comparing like that, because I'm me. I know what I'm capable of. The thing that I was most stressed about this week ended up going fairly smoothly. Got a lot of compliments on what I was wearing, which is always nice. I felt seen, and you know, I did my part, and I did it well. And that's what I take pride in. That's what I take joy in. And, you know, just hope that the right people continue to see that. And I love what I do. It's really fulfilling. I feel like I'm part of something bigger than myself. That's what I'm trying to achieve with here. Like, there's a lot to give, and I want to give it to people, and I want to help people find themselves and get that same success that I have found, because I think we measure success differently, right? I think this is a comparison. We look at people who make a ton of money and are celebrities and whatever, but I think not everybody really kind of wants to be like that. I think we just want to be financially stable and able to do what we want to do, and I've been able to do that at a young age. And I think a lot of people just need that extra push, that little extra support, and a reframing of the mindset, and just learn to go with the flow. You know, I was thinking about this quote. Not like, I don't know if it's a quote by somebody, but it's a quote that maybe I'll just take ownership of, because I haven't seen anybody else use it. I also just didn't Google it, so maybe if you Google it and you let me know. But it's like, I have my North Star, and I'm just taking, like, we set up where we want to go, our North Star, and we're sitting in our boat, and we're just letting the wind take us. You know, so have the direction, but be open to going with the flow, because there's gonna be road, you know, on the open ocean, right? Think the ocean, it can get rough out there. It can get rough, and it's scary when the ocean gets rough, and you don't know what could happen. But eventually, the currents, they're not as rough. They're not pulling you in too many different directions. The wind is gentle. The sea calms. And everything's all right. And you make it out on the other side. And as long as you have that North Star and you know where you're going, then you'll always be on the right path. Doesn't matter where you are in this ocean. As long as you're pointed towards that and you're headed in that direction, you're doing the right things. It doesn't matter what the boat next to you is doing. Well, I guess if you're in a boat, it does matter, I guess, a little bit, because you don't want to run into them. But it doesn't matter too much what other people are doing, because this is your timeline. This is your journey. They're just noise, and we're gonna take it in the way that we wanna take our path. We create new ones. We don't. The road less traveled is always a wild one. It's always crazy. It's always one of the most fulfilling ones. So this all probably was a little rambly, because again, I'm not perfect, and maybe we should do like a nice little glass window up there. I want like really high ceilings. This is a really tall roof for this house, but things that you can do to apply the concept we were talking about of take joy in what you have. before we wrap up and go to bed here. Write down 3 things you have right now that you would have been grateful for a year ago. Read them back. Now, this is not a gratitude exercise, it's actually a recalibration. You have more than you are currently accounting for. So, you can even do this as like a weekly thing or a daily thing. But for now, just to get that small win, write down 3 things you have right now that you would have been grateful for a year ago. So, take joy in those things, and I will see you all tomorrow. We'll enjoy our sunset together here with the cows grazing in the fields, the sheep, and we'll finish up our roof on this, and we'll cap off the home base that we have going here, and maybe we'll get the farm animals going and expand our little farm and get our community thriving. So our 5 huts as the moon rises. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in today, and I hope you take joy in what you have, and share a little something in the comments with me for something you're joyful for. I'm joyful for this community that we're building, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. So have a great rest of your day, and thanks for being here. Oops.